everyone. Welcome to my second revise. What am I naming this again? Oh my goodness. My RRS, review, revise, submit. Yes, I know what I'm doing. I created this. So welcome. If you guys missed my first one, that is on my channel. I just added the playlist so you guys can watch all of them. But this is the series where I am taking works that I made back in college, so like 2010 to 2014, and I'm going to edit them live. Mostly this is going to be me talking through how I'm going to edit it, what I like, what I didn't like, offering critiques as if somebody was submitting it to me, but instead of that, it's just my own work. And then I'll start a little bit of live, like retyping it, but just to kind of give you an idea of like the direction, because truthfully, sometimes when people are staring at me, and in this case, it's you guys across the screen, I still get like very hung up on word choices. And then I noticed in the last stream I did, I would be like sitting there like, what am I writing now? What are words? What am I doing? So I probably won't do as much of the writing as I'm going to be talking through the editing process with you guys. So yeah, welcome. I'll wait to see if we get any more people in. But Margaret, hello, hi. I hope you are joining us. And hello, Mars. Welcome. So yeah, I won't go through the whole spiel this time, but I do, I gotta grab my phone real quick. I do think that in the description, I pretty much summed it up. But this time, based on the poll that you guys requested, I'm just gonna give a preface that I called this a psychological thriller. And I don't really think that fits. I think I was trying to make it a psychological thriller in 2011. If I'm correct, I'm pretty sure 2011 is when Shutter Island came out, and that just blew my mind, that movie. Then we also had Inception, and I was just really into the deception types of movies back then. So you can very well maybe see a Shutter Island influence in this story, and it's very short, so it's really not going to spoil much, to be honest. But yeah, I really wanted to pull one of those, and I don't think it worked out. So instead, we're going to take this attempted psychological thriller and we're going to turn it into a horror fantasy. And I'll kind of talk through why I think that change is going to be perfect. So this stream will probably only last for an hour at the most. And yeah, I think we should just get into it if that's cool with you guys. Get very official. Hold on a sec. Yes, horror fantasy is my favorite genre to write. I just haven't really written anything outside of short stories in it, but I have 2 horror fantasy novel ideas I am really excited to get to soon, hopefully. At least one of them. All right, so let me pull up this. Okay, so this story is called A Kingdom of Her Own. Like I did in my last stream, I'm going to read it aloud, and then we will tear it apart. All right, I think this is probably, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it one more time. That might be too much. Maybe if I don't think I could do it half. I was going to say maybe 160, but I think this will work for you guys. If you have any issues, just let me know. I could try to make it bigger. All right. She lounged across her bed, stroking the soft cotton and grinning up at her servants now entering her chambers in their matching attire. Greetings, my dears. Have you brought me purified water and not that murky-filled kind you tried to give me before? Her servants stared blankly at her before handing her a clear glass of water. Ah, much better. You may leave. They scampered out of her lavish room and closed the door behind them. Solitude. Every queen should have it from time to time, she murmured. Not sure what to do, but accustomed to being alone, the queen decided to play a game she made up. As she grew bored, quite frequently, she created a counting game to pass time, counting everything from the floor tiles to the ceiling cracks. She would see how high she could count until her servants interrupted her. Hours began passing, and yet no servants had come. The queen was running out of things to count and decided she was rather hungry. Today, I think I shall venture outside. I never do get out there much, for as a queen I take no action in the affairs of the king. I wonder how my dear husband is. She spoke aloud. She sprang from her bed and strode to the door. She gave the handle a twist, but the door would not budge. This is rather odd, she stated. She turned it again, but the door still would not yield. She hit the door, hoping a passing servant would hear. A few minutes passed before she grew anxious and an idea started to form in her head. Someone has breached the palace. They've locked me inside. Oh, what shall I do? My king, is he safe? Have the intruders committed the ultimate treason? What do they plan on doing with me? A sob escaped from her throat. She banged the door loud enough to mimic a herd of elephants. Please, let me out, the queen begged. I will give you money and jewels, whatever you seek. The door quivered, and suddenly her servants appeared. Oh, thank goodness. Has the palace been breached? Is my king protected? Ignoring her questions, the servants brought the queen to her bed, where they pushed her down and pulled straps across her body. What is this? I am your queen, and I demand you release me and bring me my husband. A servant pulled a needle off a tray, tapped it, and brought it down to her arm. Adelina, please calm down. You are not a queen. You have been in a mental hospital for 5 months since your husband passed away. Lies, all lies. She shouted before the impostors around her faded out of view. The doctors in their matching white coats looked through the mirror at the unconscious Adelina. Her condition hasn't improved. We have tried doubling her dosage, but she refuses the medicine in her water when it's too cloudy, claiming it is impure. Her episodes have been coming more frequently, and each time a doctor interrupts one, she becomes violent and refuses to believe what we tell her. Adelina's imaginary kingdom has become her only reality now. I am afraid her body is too fragile to handle any more medication. There's nothing more I can do for her. The head doctor nodded at his team and walked out of the room. The assistants scribbled away in their notebooks. The queen was awakening to a new day. All right, I'm going to come back on here, just my face real quick. And I'll just be completely open. I hate this story, but I thought I was like chef's kiss when I wrote it back in 2011. But there's a lot that I don't agree with writing wise, as well as just like plot content wise. So I'll just briefly talk through that before I get into like how and why I would change more specific things. So the overall premise, obviously, is that we have a woman who is having a psychotic break and is kind of thinking that she's in this made up kingdom, but really she's at a hospital getting treatment. First and foremost, I am now very, very, very close to being a licensed professional counselor, but I've been a therapist for 6 years. I have my master's in psychology. A lot has changed since I have gone through all that school. And I do think part of the reason why I want to change it to a horror fantasy is that I feel like the story stigmatizes mental health so bad. And I did not think that when I first wrote it, but the verbiage, the ideas of everything, it doesn't sit well with me. I'm sorry, it's so hot here and my hair is like sticking to me, so I don't mean to keep playing with it, but man, we are in a heat wave across the world as I am understanding. So, anywho, yeah, the verbiage really doesn't sit well. Not that, so essentially we could have a couple things that her like diagnosis could have been. It could have been, schizophrenia, having delusions. It could have just been having like a manic episode, or not a manic, a psychotic episode, like due to grief or loss. Those, they do happen. I don't know if it would happen to this extent necessarily, that she's creating a whole world, but it could, I'm sure. But time wise, like it says, like, I wrote in that her husband passed away 5 months ago. They probably wouldn't be giving up on her that quickly. Obviously, there's an implication that she's only receiving medication and not actual therapy, which wouldn't be the same thing. And she's really not a danger to herself in any capacity at this moment. So, like, they wouldn't be strapping her to a bed. I've learned a lot since I have gone through my things. And, just in how I wrote this story, it doesn't sit well. I have heard of this game. And I do think if it's done well, like this premise could work still. Like I said, Shutter Island, that's where I think this kind of came from initially. But Shutter Island does do it much better. And there's obviously a lot more there for that premise. But yes, there's a lot of immediate problems with the whole concept. So I'll go back and kind of go through some more like specific things of just like why it's not going to work and why we're probably just going to scrap it all together and start anew. All right. So first, I did see lounge across her bed. Obviously, I think I was trying to go for like planting that seed of like, why is she lounging across her bed and whatever. So whether or not it makes sense, I know what I was trying to do here. Um, for a line, the thing that bothers me about this first line is I obviously name her way down here, right? Her name is Adelina. And this is supposed to be third person limited. Why don't I start with her name? This is my thing in like all of these stories I've been rereading. And just so you guys know too, these are sight reads. Like I haven't read these stories since 2011. So I'm reading these for the first time with you guys since then. And I'm also editing them on the fly. Like I have not prepared this one bit. But yeah, in a lot of my stories so far, I don't name my main characters. In last month's episode, I didn't name her at all. In this one, I don't name her until like very later. So strange. I don't know. Yeah, like just a major problem. So that would be something I would flag immediately. Like, why aren't we naming her right here? This, for the rest of it, it wouldn't be too bad, except again, I feel like I probably would have used like, the rough fabric instead or something like that. But it's just kind of very like a boring, first line. But as the story goes, I feel like I probably wouldn't change it too much just for this particular story. I would change it rewriting it. The next thing that really gets me is the freaking language I use. Like nobody talks like that. Not even in like medieval novels. Like I don't know what I was thinking of, but the language is so bad, the dialogue. I also feel like just how you start with greetings, my dear, and then you say murky filled. That doesn't work. Yeah, you're right. But again, I've grown since then too. So I mean, yeah, past Brie gave it her best to be like a Shutter Island, a Fight Club, as you will, because probably this is also probably the year I first read Fight Club too. So I was really, really like onslaught with the Fight Club, the Shutter Island, those like deception movies and books. Like I never read Fight Club until college, and it was probably around this year. So that's where I think I got a lot of this like inspiration from. But either way, I can still criticize myself now. I don't mind. So purified water, like again, it just if I'm turning in my editing brain and this wasn't me, this whole sentence is just so like brain melting. This sounds like she's an alien. I don't feel like a queen in any dimension would talk about purified water. They might comment on the water looking murky, but I feel like this sentence just should have been like better. Like, oh, hello. I don't even know, like servants maybe. How would you, whatever you address? And just kind of comment on like the water itself, not really focusing on the purification of it, I would say. You may leave is probably the best line so far of dialogue. Like, okay, you may leave. Again, maybe some more action, because we literally have this first paragraph and there's no description whatsoever. Now, I think I said this in my last one too. So the asterisk for these stories they are supposed to be flash fiction of only 2 pages, which means they're like, I don't know, 500 words maybe. Let me see how much this one actually is. Yeah, so 585 words. So it's very, very brief, but even in like a 500 word, like this should be a little bit more robust and to the point, I think. And this type of story, I don't think would work for a flash fiction of under 1,000, at least in my opinion. I really do think you need to build up the tension and the suspense and really fake out your people, like your readers. So it definitely doesn't work for me. But I do think if I was going to take this premise, I would just need a lot more description and like actions, I think. Like we have the action of her laying in bed, stroking the cotton, waiting for her servants to open the chamber, and then maybe describing that a little bit more, like really get into her viewpoint if we're in the limited POV. So there's just like too much happening. Yes, that's a great way to put it. More space to breathe. Absolutely. Just really getting into it, because if you're supposed to be in her head, you really need to get in her head, and there's not much to really be here. You definitely feel like, at least for me, like I feel like I'm just an outsider, just like hovering around this scene, and I don't really know what's going on. But like I think I could have nowadays really dug into some of her thoughts, which is what I think I would do moving into my rewrite. See, what trips me out the most is the transition between seas before breaking to the real world, any interactions with service up into including the needles. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it, but I see you're still typing, so let me see what the next one is. I'll take a drink while I'm waiting. Well, okay. I'll keep going until I see that, but sometimes I know there's a delay on StreamYard. But yeah, everything just really punches so quickly. They hand her a clear glass of water. I mean, again, the glass, I mean, people had glass for many years, but I think that's like also a tell immediately that like something is not adding up. They scampered. I mean, scampered's a good verb, but not really here, I feel like. There we go. Okay, so it was before breaking to the real world, any interactions with the servants up to and including the needles should leave room for her to misinterpret further. That will, among other things, create a stalker. Yes. Perfect. Transitions are, yeah. Sometimes transitions are hard. And like I said, I think I was like shooting way too high. Like I was shooting for the stars when I probably should have just like shot for my backyard in this story. I really did not have the room to write what I wanted to write when I was trying to write it. So, hello, Stephanie. I'll be in and out since I'm in the middle of making dinner. No problem. Yeah, definitely watch the replays if you're interested. Like I said earlier, this is mostly going to be me just kind of talking about why this story doesn't work and how I would eventually re-edit it, which I do plan on rewriting this story this month. Maybe not fully. We'll see. Hopefully with my timeline I can, but this will be the next story that I'm going to hopefully be trying to publish. So, okay. So let's see. Yeah, also, I mean, the murmuring to herself and off, I feel like this is also another weird, like, why did I word it this way? This is weird. Also, saying it to herself is just like a very big flashing light, like, hello, this isn't real. And I thought I was just so clever back then. Hey, Alan, welcome. So, yeah, I don't know. I could just really pick this apart inch by inch. If I was going to read this as somebody, I'm going to be harsher on myself, but I'm probably going to be honest and tell the person, like if this was somebody else's, that I do think this needs a full rewrite and or more space. So if they were like, "Oh, I'm trying to keep it under 1,000," I would be like, "Don't do it." If they, just you really need to have clean words. You need to make things breathe more. Again, like this, there's just not much here. Like, okay, so sure, she made up a game to pass the ceiling tiles, but if anybody else like me would be like, well, why does she have nothing? If she's a queen and she's in her room, why is she just counting tiles? Why is she in this room? Why doesn't she get up and go places? So I feel like I would need a little bit more to maybe talk through that and try to come up with something that would be believable about why she would be in that room. So maybe if I was going to rewrite this as is, I would maybe have something in her, like kind of going through a whole commentary about how she was, put here for her safekeeping. And maybe that would have been. So maybe, before the attack on the castle comes later, bring that up and talk about how she was kept here for her safety while the attack is going on. I think that could be a little bit more believable. And then maybe would kind of buy in the reader to like, oh, like she's in a tower for her safety. Like that makes sense. Like we have to keep her safe. She's a queen. That's probably how I would try to rewrite this beginning a little bit. Again, I think it's just kind of weird writing, weird wording, hours passing, and she's still not doing anything. Yeah, I don't know. I wanna talk more about this, but like I feel like I'm gonna repeat myself so much because the story just it's not a thing. It's not what I would want it to be, unfortunately. But again, too, I think so this part would be a great place too to kind of bring her back into herself and bring us back into this main character's body, because this would be something that she would probably know, right? However, in her head, if she's being like, if she's locking the door to protect herself, like in her head, she probably would be like, oh, I can't find my key. And that's why she can't get out. So she needs like the guards or someone to help. Like, I feel like I could have played with this a little bit more. Let's see. Hello, Holly. Welcome. And yeah, no, flash fiction is definitely 1,000 words or under. You're right. Which is why that's what I'm saying. This, how I wanted to write this story in, my very ambitious 20-year-old brain, should have just not made it flash fiction. But I was writing it for a class that was flash fiction. Like everything was under 2 pages in this class, which made it just really hard to be able to convey a lot of things. And we really weren't taught how to write flash fiction. The goal was write 2 pages of short story and come in and share it. Like we didn't really learn what flash fiction was, and that's why this doesn't work. Thank you, Alan. Yes, that's what I feel like it's great to share and also be like, I'm not perfect and it took me a long time to get better. So I hope it is helpful for other people. So yeah, I think I don't know if I have too much more to say about this in particular. Again, the cleaning up the just the dialogue is just so strange to me. And it's weird because like I've written dialogue like that is medieval-ish, but it's and at the same time too. I don't know if I was just so like into like the big dramatic scenes, but God. I this is the biggest thing I cringe about sharing right now is like this dialogue is not it. I feel like that's how my flash fiction class in college was a decade ago. Yeah, like that's seriously a little bit more than a decade for me, but like it really was not good. It would have been such a great class if he actually taught us what flash fiction was and how to write it well. But instead it was just a group sitting at a table, a round table, and every single week we would come in with our 2 pages, read them aloud, and then people would just comment and we would move on to the next person every single week. And the teacher, I just think, wanted to collect a paycheck so he could retire, or the professor. He was older and I don't think he cared. I think we were stuck in a weird time to be in college 10 to 15 years ago where things are so different. Yeah, you're probably right. That's what high school teachers do. This is the template. These are the deep themes you need to convey into it. Yeah, that's the college course I paid for that I'm still paying for. I agree. Honestly, at the time, I just loved to write. And I was so happy taking the class because that's all I wanted to do. And being in college, I was a double major in psych and criminal justice, and I had a writing minor. So I had a lot of classes I had to take. So doing these classes was a great escape for me. However, looking back, I really think about how much it was a waste of money, like financially, and using my, my debt to increase because I learned nothing out of it other than these stories suck. Oh, my laptop's about to die. No. Well, yeah, definitely go, plug your laptop in and it'll be here when you're ready to come back. But how? To which he replies, how should I know? Okay, so yeah. So just my last couple thoughts on this. We obviously get, like you were saying, the transition between this is so abrupt. And I really think in order for this to have worked, what I probably would have done is I wouldn't have her like I would have her interacting with the servants or like the mental health professionals more, and that like she doesn't really convey what they're doing, right? So like I would say like, oh, um like instead of being strapped down, maybe they were like, piling like blankets on top of her, like stay hidden. Maybe instead of like the needle, um they were pulling out a sword, right? I would really play with like the ideas of what she's seeing versus what's reality. And then instead of having this, because I really just feel that this is the part that really gets me with how inaccurate this like mental health rep is actually being right now, is that again, the doctor is very, very clinically sounding. Again, probably because this is what I thought doctors should be, thanks to Hollywood. But they don't talk like this. I work now with psychologists and psychiatrists. They're just normal people. They don't talk very well, maybe some of them do, but most of them don't talk very haughty. They're very like down to earth. So like this is just way too clinical and stiff, and that would have to go. And honestly, I would just get rid of this whole paragraph. I would just not have it shift point of views at all. And instead, I think I would want Adelina to wake up and realize that she's strapped in and maybe have a moment of clarity due to like the medication or something like that. So like it would actually be still in her point of view and coming to awareness that she had maybe a psychotic break. Like I feel like that would have been stronger, and it wouldn't be this weird point of view, and it would just keep things a little bit tidier. So could that work? And could I still write this story this way? Probably. As I said already, it'd probably be over 1,000 words. I don't think I would keep it flash fiction. And I could probably make it cleaner so that, because as I said, I work in the field now, I could probably make it so that the mental health rep isn't bad anymore. But I was thinking about this idea and I felt like I had such a wonderful way to actually fix it and kind of keeping the locked in the tower theme. Or a dagger, curse your betrayal. Yes, dagger. Perfect, right? Yeah, like exactly. That would be so much better, right? So everything in the scene is through her diluted perception instead of it being like you're just so pulled immediately into this. And it would also, like we said, it would also fix the whole like why she's in a tower. So if we cleaned up the beginning, made it so that in up here, we're in her view, she's in there for her protection instead of her own device, because that was really weird and it doesn't really make sense. Like if a queen is in her tower for whatever reason, that's cool, but we would be under the understanding that she could come and go as she pleased. And we brought everything into like all the little details, maybe. And again, she probably wouldn't be in like a white padded room either if this was what we were going in. Like people in mental health facilities have possessions there. They have a bed, they have a nightstand. Like normally there's no doors because that could be a safety issue, but like everything would still be there and you'd be able to use it. And like once they're cleared, unless you're on a suicide watch, then you would be able to have possessions that people bring in. So like you can have your clothes, you can have, I don't think you can have shoes or you can't have shoelaces. I'm sorry. So like anything like slides. So she would have stuff in this room. It wouldn't actually be bare. And honestly, that's a form of torture, like legit. Like, could you imagine just being in a bare room nowadays? Like we would actually go more insane. So, hi, Diane. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Let's flail. All right. So this is what I'm gonna talk to you guys real quick, but I need another drink because I'm on a medication right now and it is giving me cotton mouth so bad. Thought my glasses were going. Okay. So this is my theory for how I can fix this problem. We're rewriting the whole thing. There's probably nothing that I'm actually going to keep from this moving forward, which might... Is it a cop-out on this series? Maybe. But this is what I kind of picked up. The original story is this maiden in a tower, right? Which kind of gives me Rapunzel vibes, except she doesn't maybe have long hair, but I love Rapunzel and I love being trapped in a tower and someone to come save her. And instead of doing it in this like psychological sort of way where we're in her view and we're going to see, how it's not actually accurate. Maybe one day I'll rewrite it that way. But for now, I was thinking about the fact that what if the queen or the princess or whatever was locked in the tower to protect the townsfolk from her? So instead of like the opposite where she's like in there for her own safety because she's having mental health issues. We instead take it, and now she's actually the dangerous one. So thus my Rapunzel retelling is born, where it is now a horror fantasy about the monster in the tower. So how do we start this, right? I already said in the beginning that we named her, I don't even know if I like the name Adelina, but I think I might keep it for the time being, just because I don't feel like searching through names. I think we had this in the last discussion. I take way too long to think about how I'm going to name someone. So she's going to be Adelina for the time being. But my first critique in the last story was that we weren't given her a name. She has some weird dialogue, and we don't really get a sense of the room she's actually in. So I'd love to set that up. And also, even if whatever setting we have, whether it's a medieval tower, a mental health hospital, there's windows, right? There's got to be windows. You can't be completely shut in the dark. So let's bring up what I want to think. Oh my goodness. My puppy will never not bark for no reason. I don't think there's anything out there, but she's crazy. So if you guys hear her, I do apologize. Alrighty, pulling up my screen share now for my Rapunzel retelling. Okay. So this is the part where I get really, like, I don't want to say nervous, but my brain seems to slow down when I'm both talking to people and trying to write at the same time. So I'm going to do my best to just kind of give the intro to how I would be writing this. And I'm probably going to go silent for a few seconds just to kind of get my quick brainstorm of how I'm going to open the novel. So we had no description initially, and now we're going to switch that to having more description. Okay, so we got a line. Adelina watched out the small window as a thin man approached her tower, towing something in a large sack behind him. Already, I feel like that's 10 times stronger than the last one. I don't know. I can't switch over, but yeah, the last line, just so we all remember. She lounged across her bed, stroking the soft cotton and grinning up at her servants now entering her chambers in their matching attire. I like this better. Will it stay? Who knows? But just to kind of give reference. So she's staring out a window. What I'd probably do next then is maybe describe the scene a little bit more, because again, she's trapped in a tower, but we don't know that initially until we watch him do the next action. So let's see where we're going to go next. Okay. So again, trying to kind of just give a little bit more life into her perspective. Whether or not it's coming across this way, I kind of want her to seem a little bit self-righteous. You know, she's kind of looking down, like literally she's physically looking down at this man struggling to bring her dinner. And what I would like to convey as it keeps going, right, is that, yeah, we won't know until a little bit later that she's stuck in there, but she's stuck. So even though she seems all high and mighty, she's also at a loss. So what I would like to keep doing, which, like I said, I'm kind of doing pretty good on time this time around, but I would love to be able to have her describe a little bbit about her time, like her meal's going to come up. I'd probably do like two days in this short story. No, I would say under a 5K limit. Oh, wait. Neurons firing as you write. Enough time had gone by that she couldn't remember when. So, yeah, no, she's going to be condescending. She's not going to be the hero here. However, I do want to include something. Well, okay, so it's going to come later, I think. So basically, I'll just kind of tell you guys this idea because that's what this whole thing is for. So the way that I want to rewrite it, so in the beginning, right, there's still elements of kind of like she's in this room, this tower, she's stuck. That's in both the stories. People do have to approach her. In the first story, they come into her room. In this story, there's a person that's outside the castle. And what we're going to learn as I write more is that it's a pulley system. So a pulley is bringing up her, what is it? Not a pulley, is it a dumbwaiter? Is that what they're called? I think that it's going to be brought up to her. So she has this window that if she jumps out, she's going to die. So like she can't really jump out, but it is large enough that she can pick her food into it. So people do not go up the stairs to this tower. Like she is barricaded in. So you are kind of right in this aspect that she can't remember the last interaction she had with somebody. Aside from this. So that is where I would kind of start to get to, is that she's describing how they're giving her food, but they're not actually having an interaction with her. And like maybe having like the guy look up and like shudder a little bit and then like scamper away. We could use that word here. Yes. So basically it's a medieval dumbwaiter that is bringing her food, where they're just gonna, hike it up there, let it go, and then when she's done, she can release it and it falls down. So with that being said, that's kind of where I want to go to then, and have her release it so that it goes back down. But instead of going down gently as it's designed to do, it breaks, which means the next person that brings her meal has to walk up the stairs. And again, I'm going to give it away. So if you're watching this, you're going to know how the story ends. But I hope that if it gets published, you'd still be around to watch all the edits and the things that I would create out of it that you're not going to see here. Obviously, that's where she's going to comment about how like people have not visited her in many years. Like even her own parents have shunned her. And then like the door is going to open and she's going to be like, but for a very good reason. And she ends up being like a monster and she eats the person instead of her meal. So that's why she's locked in the tower, because she is actually a monster or a cursed princess or something like that. And she's going to eat the person that's dropping off her meal, which also means that, dun, 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 now she has a way to get out of the tower too. So maybe there'd be a part 2 in this short story series, but yeah, that's where I wanted to go. So it ends up being a little bit different in the ends, because in the end of the first short story, which I wish I could have 2 screens up at the same time, but it won't let me. But as we remember, in the first short story, it ends with them coming in and sedating her and then having this weird, like, different point of view from the doctor that's very cold and calculating. This one is going to end with her actually doing, like, the attacking. So, yes. Spider-Man's my favorite, so I appreciate that. Yes, Diane. Oh, I appreciate it. So, yeah. I do feel like this might be somewhat cheating as far as a revising goes, but the more I kept thinking about how I wanted to work with this story, the more I just felt like I really didn't want to stigmatize mental health. And like I said, even though I might be able to do it a little bit better nowadays, I feel like going the horror monster route of giving you, because you still have the element, right? The whole element is like, why is she here? Why is she in this room? Why is she stuck there? And I think that's where like the theme of both of these stories are. So in some ways, I am revising it. Kind of. But yeah, so I think I would do, I need to stop saying that. I keep saying, but yeah, all the time, and I start to hear myself say it, and it annoys me. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I really want to like type up with you guys. But if you, at this point in time, if you guys have any questions, if you want to pick my brain about editing or how I would rewrite this, feel free to ask them. Or if you're watching this in the future, feel free to leave me some comments because I'm sure I'm not conveying all that I could today because I am taking the story and like really, really rechanging everything. So it's rechanging is not a word. Redoing is what I wanted to say. I'm redoing this story completely. Hey, man. I want to say louder again. Nah, I don't want to say that either. Okay. So, like, there's a few things that I would probably do. So, would I keep all of this? No, I'd probably expand it a little bit more, but just so you kind of can see how I would want to get to from here to there. That eventually, this poor dude drops the food off. It ends up whatever breaking the little trolley. Somebody else has to give her food, and instead of just fixing the trolley or letting her starve, decides to actually deliver her food. And she's probably going to comment that he's a fool indeed. And then it's just going to end with her eating him. So there's that. I don't know. I think I feel good about my conversation with this. But if you guys have any questions or if you guys want anything else to pick my brain about, you're welcome to do that. A friend of mine had a problem like that. When he gets sentimental, he'd start every sentence with "but love." Yeah, I tend to reuse words in my speech a lot, and I'm coming to the conclusion that they are my ums. So instead of when I'm public speaking, instead of saying in between everything, I am saying things like, yeah, but okay, so yeah, so those are all my filler words, right, in real life. And I remember from my speech class, which I was excellent at, I talk too fast and those start to come out more. So I'm trying to get back into that habit of not overusing them because they annoy me. They probably don't matter to anybody else, but that's just how I am. One day I replied, but love is unsanitary. He didn't give it, but his wife gave me a dirty look. Oh God. I get it. I get it. That was funny. I probably would have laughed. Well, I did laugh in real life, but I probably would have laughed for that too. It might have taken me a second though, because it took me a second to get it there. Okay. So there we have it. I think I explained myself why I would change things. I think I gave the two options to how I would edit it if I was keeping it, as well as making it into a Rapunzel retelling instead. And that's kind of where we're at. I was truthfully wanting to do this one because I really wanted to rewrite the story into my Rapunzel retelling. But I have so many more to get to, and I'm really excited. I know in my last poll, I put a nonfiction piece that I wanted to breathe more life into. So that one's on the table for August. I might put another poll though, because there's another one that I want to rewrite that I like. And it's also in this collection from my 2011 class, where it was prompted because talking to one of my critique partners, we were going to try to submit a story to this group called the Red Herring Society. But unfortunately, after I got really excited about it, because the theme is Meet Me at Midnight, and I was like, oh, I love midnight. I love this theme. And then I found out that I'd have to pay $70 to submit it. And that's just unfortunately not in my bank account right now. I can't do $70 for a submission, even if it would come with benefits. Basically, it's a $35 fee to submit, as well as a $35 membership fee you have to pay. So you'd get like all of the membership bonuses, but then it ends up being $70 if you're not a member. So it is kind of expensive. The only plus to this is that the pool is going to be much smaller because it is so much money. I just don't think I'm going to have the time to write it because it's due August 4th. And that's a very tight deadline. And anyway, I'm rambling, but if anyone's interested, I could link that somewhere, or you can DM me and I'll send you the stuff. But for next month, it's either going to be probably the nonfiction piece or taking that Meet Me at Midnight theme and re-editing a peasant girl, wealthy man love story that is also tragic, because I don't write anything happy half the time. So, okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any feedback for me as far as how maybe I can make this clearer in the future, if there's any specific things you want to see when I redo these, definitely let me know. I'm open to criticism because I know these probably aren't perfect, but at least as Adam says, you know, this is my process, and I'm happy to kind of share how my brain works when I'm trying to think about how I'm going to edit and or recreate my stories. And I'm glad that you guys were able to tune in. So I will likely be doing the next one sometime in August. It's probably going to be a midday one. That seemed to be the most popular choice, like around a 2 p.m.-ish time, I think it was. So that's probably what I'm going to aim for, like a 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock time. So just keep a lookout for when that's posted. And I cannot wait to write some more words with you guys. If you haven't already, I will plug myself. The Stygian collection is out in the world, and my very first short story has been published in here. So I even have a fancy author page, and that's like that's me. That's so wild. So if you want, link is in my description. I would so love for you guys to support me. And if not through my link, you can also order it on Amazon. So thank you guys. Thank you, Diane. You're actually amazing. So just take that. You're welcome, Holly. I hope it was informative. All right, so I'll see you guys in a month with another story. And I appreciate all the support and love you guys give me. So bye.